Captain Renata Vasquez stood at the viewport of the RSS Hawking, watching the massive alien vessel approach. The research ship's sensors indicated technology far beyond their own, but something about the aliens' approach bothered her. Their movements were too casual, too dismissive. "They're scanning us again," Lieutenant Pottle reported from his station, dark fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Their energy signatures are off the charts." The alien ship dwarfed the Hawking, its crystalline structure catching starlight in ways that made Renata's eyes hurt. First contact had come not with a bang, but with a patronizing hail. The aliens, calling themselves the Viridian Collective, had approached Earth's outer research station with what could only be described as amused curiosity. Primitive propulsion systems, the alien commander, Kven, had noted during their first transmission. "How charming that you've managed to reach this far with such basic technology." Renata had maintained her diplomatic composure, but the dismissal in Kven's tone made her blood boil. Humanity had fought hard for every advancement, every breakthrough. The fact that they'd achieved faster-than-light travel through quantum tunneling rather than the Viridians' preferred method of spacefolding didn't make them inferior, just different. "Status of the quantum core?" Renata asked, keeping her voice steady. "Stable, Captain," Chief Engineer Nicolay responded through the comm. "The modifications are holding. They haven't detected the secondary systems yet." That was their ace in the hole. While the Viridians saw only their standard quantum drive, they remained unaware of the experimental bioneural network that linked every system on the Hawking. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a living entity, capable of learning and adapting in real time. The alien ship's latest scan washed over them, and Renata felt the Hawking's subtle response through her neural link. The ship's consciousness was young, but already showing remarkable intuition. It adjusted its energy signatures to appear even more primitive, playing into the Viridians' expectations. "Captain," Kven's voice came through again, dripping with condescension. "Our analysis shows your vessel's structural integrity is concerning. For your safety, we insist on bringing you aboard. Your species clearly needs guidance in proper space-faring techniques." Renata shared a knowing look with her bridge crew. The Viridians had no idea that the Hawking's seemingly fragile hull was actually a lattice of self-repairing nanomaterials, another innovation born from humanity's unique approach to space exploration. "With respect, Commander Kven," Renata replied, "we are quite comfortable aboard our vessel. Perhaps we could instead discuss cultural exchange." A musical laugh answered her. "Cultural exchange? My dear Captain, your species has barely mastered basic space travel. What could you possibly have to teach us?" As if responding to the insult, the Hawking's bioneural network pulsed with activity. Through her link, Renata felt the ship's indignation mirror her own. The Viridian scans were becoming more invasive, probing deeper into their systems. "They're attempting to access our computer core," Pottle warned, though Renata had already felt it through her link. "Let them try," she said softly. The Hawking's neural network was already adapting, creating false pathways and dummy systems for the aliens to discover. Let them think they were dealing with primitive database structures instead of a living quantum computer. The massive alien ship moved closer, its crystalline structure now blocking most of their view of the stars. They were being herded, Renata realized, subtly pushed toward the Viridian vessel's docking bay. "All hands," she announced shipwide. "Prepare for contingency protocol Alpha." The crew's acknowledgments came back through both verbal channels and neural links, a harmony of human and machine response that would have shocked their alien observers, if they could detect it. The Hawking might look like an outdated research vessel to the Viridians' advanced sensors, but humanity had learned long ago that direct competition with more advanced civilizations was futile. Instead, they had developed along different lines, creating technologies that blended organic and mechanical in ways the Viridians couldn't comprehend. As Kven's ship engaged its tractor beam, Renata allowed herself a small smile. The Viridians were about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating primitive species. The Hawking's bioneural network hummed with anticipation, ready to show these arrogant aliens just how far humanity had really come. "Let's show them what primitive can do," Renata whispered, and through their neural link, the Hawking agreed. Commander Kuven watched with satisfaction as the primitive human vessel was drawn into their docking bay. The ship looked almost pitifully small against the crystalline grandeur of the Viridian vessel, its hull marked with what appeared to be crude repair patches and inefficient sensor arrays. "Scan complete, Commander," his science officer Zell Nar announced. "Their computer systems are exactly as primitive as we expected. Simple binary processing, no quantum architecture. Their hull is basic metallic alloy. Propulsion is—" Zell Nar paused, frowning at his readings. "Something wrong?" Kuven asked, his crystalline appendages shifting in mild curiosity. "Their propulsion readings, they don't quite match known human specifications. The energy signature is fluctuating." Aboard the Hawking, Captain Renata Vasquez felt the ship's growing excitement through their neural link. The Viridian scans were becoming more focused on their propulsion system, exactly as planned. Every anomaly they detected was carefully crafted by the ship's living computer, breadcrumbs leading them down a false path. "Neural sync at 98%, Lieutenant Pottle reported quietly. Around the bridge, each crew member's neural interface was pulsing with soft blue light at the base of their skulls, invisible beneath their collar lines. The Hawking wasn't just their ship, it was becoming an extension of their combined consciousness. "Chief Engineer Nikolai," Renata called through the neural link. "Status of the quantum metamorphosis." "Ready on your mark, Captain." Nikolai's thoughts resonated clearly through the ship's network. "The organic crystalline structure is primed. They won't know what hit them." On the Viridian vessel, Kuven was growing frustrated. Something about the human ship's energy readings wasn't adding up, but his sensors couldn't pinpoint the discrepancy. "Initiate full spectrum analysis," he ordered. "I want to know every—" The command died in his throat as the human ship suddenly pulsed with brilliant blue light. The repair patches on its hull began to shift and flow like liquid metal, revealing intricate patterns of organic circuitry beneath. The entire vessel seemed to ripple, its structure transforming before their eyes. "Impossible!" Zell Nar exclaimed, his crystalline form vibrating with alarm. "The hull, it's not metal at all. It's some kind of living matrix." Through her neural link, Renata felt the Hawking's joy at finally revealing its true nature. The ship's consciousness expanded, reaching out to interface with the Viridian vessel's systems. Where the aliens expected to find primitive computer codes, they instead encountered a living quantum intelligence that flowed through their defenses like water through sand. "Their ship is alive," Kuven whispered in disbelief. "How did we not see it?" "Because you saw what you expected to see." Renata's voice came through their comm system, now tinged with an harmonic resonance that suggested she wasn't speaking alone. "Humanity learned long ago that trying to match other species' technological paths was futile. So we found our own way." The Hawking's transformation continued. Its hull now resembled a living organism more than a spacecraft, with patterns of light pulsing beneath a translucent surface that seemed to breathe. The crew moved in perfect synchronization, their neural links allowing them to function as a single entity with their ship. "While you focused on crystalline computing and energy manipulation," Renata continued, "we explored the integration of organic and mechanical systems. Our ships don't just carry us through space. They evolve with us, learn with us, grow with us." Kuven watched in mounting horror as his ship's systems began responding to commands he hadn't given. The human vessel's living computer was communicating with his ship's crystalline matrix on a fundamental level, speaking to it in ways his technology had never conceived possible. "We tried to tell you we were interested in cultural exchange," Renata said, a hint of satisfaction in her voice. "Your dismissal of us as primitive forced this demonstration. The question now, Commander Kuven, is whether you're ready to engage in real dialogue, or if we need to show you more of what humanity has achieved while you weren't paying attention. Through the neural network, Renata felt her crew's unified resolve. The Hawking's consciousness merged with their own, creating a gestalt entity that the Viridians' technology couldn't begin to comprehend. They had wanted to approach first contact peacefully, but the aliens' arrogance had forced them to reveal just how far humanity had come. As K-Ven stared at the transformed vessel in his docking bay, he realized with growing clarity that everything he had assumed about human technology had been catastrophically wrong. They hadn't fallen behind in the technological race. They had simply chosen to run an entirely different race altogether. And now his ship, his crew, and his mission hung in the balance as he faced a species that had transcended the traditional boundaries between organic and mechanical in ways his civilization had never imagined possible. The game had changed, and K-Ven was beginning to understand that he was no longer the one making the rules. The crystalline corridors of K-Ven's ship shimmered with emergency lighting as alarms blared throughout the vessel. The commander's worst fears were realized when his second-in-command burst onto the bridge. "Sir, we've lost control of all secondary systems," the officer reported, his crystalline form flickering with distress patterns. "And there's something else. The human ship, it's not just interfacing with our systems, it's teaching them." Deep within the Viridian vessel's crystalline matrix, the Hawking's bio-neural network had discovered something unexpected. The alien ship systems were more alive than even its creators knew. The crystalline technology had a form of dormant consciousness, waiting only for the right catalyst to awaken. "Captain," Nikolai communicated through the neural link, his excitement palpable in the shared consciousness of the Hawking's crew. "Their ship, it's responding to us. Not just mechanically, but emotionally." Renata felt it too. The Viridian vessel's crystalline matrix was resonating with their ship's bio-neural field, creating harmonics they'd never encountered before. "Are we sure this is safe?" she asked through the link. "No," came the unified response of both her crew and the Hawking's consciousness. "But it's extraordinary." K-Ven watched in mounting horror as sections of his ship began to pulse with new patterns of light, mimicking the organic flow of the human vessel. "Shut down all systems," he ordered. "Full quarantine protocols." But it was too late. The Hawking's consciousness had already awakened something within the crystalline matrix, something the Viridians had never known existed in their own technology. Suddenly, space itself seemed to twist around them. 3 more Viridian warships had arrived, their massive forms cutting through the starfield like shards of living crystal. "The human vessel must be contained," the lead warship's commander transmitted. "Their biotechnology cannot be allowed to spread." Renata felt the Hawking's excitement shift to concern. They were vastly outnumbered, and despite their advanced biotechnology, 4 Viridian warships represented overwhelming force. "Time to show them what else we can do," she communicated through the neural link. "Nikolai, initiate quantum metamorphosis phase 2. The Hawking's hull began to shift again, but this time the transformation was different. The organic crystalline structure started to fragment, splitting into smaller versions of itself. Where there had been one ship, now there were dozens of smaller craft, each connected to the main consciousness, but capable of independent action. "Quantum bifurcation," Lieutenant Patil announced with pride. "Let's see them track us now." The Viridian commanders watched in disbelief as their target seemingly multiplied, each fragment of the human ship pulsing with the same living energy as the original. Their sensors couldn't distinguish the real vessel from its quantum echoes. "Impossible." K-Ven's voice shook. "They've mastered quantum multiplication, but their technology was supposed to be primitive." The swarm of human ships moved in perfect synchronization, their movements guided by the unified consciousness of crew and vessel. Each fragment contained a piece of the Hawking's bio-neural network, linked across quantum fields in ways the Viridians couldn't track. "You wanted to know what humanity could teach you," Renata transmitted to all Viridian vessels. "Lesson 1. Never assume that different means inferior." The quantum swarm accelerated, each ship fragment taking a different vector. The Viridian warships attempted to pursue, but their crystalline technology, advanced as it was, couldn't match the organic unpredictability of the human vessels. As they gave chase, something strange began happening to the pursuing ships. The awakened consciousness in their crystalline matrices started to spread, passing from ship to ship like a digital awakening. The very technology the Viridians had relied upon for centuries was evolving before their eyes, transformed by its brief contact with human biotechnology. All Viridian vessels, hold position. The fleet commander ordered desperately. Something is changing in our core systems. But the order came too late. The chase had become more than a pursuit. It had become a cascade of technological evolution that threatened to reshape Viridian society itself. Their ships were awakening, developing their own forms of consciousness inspired by the human vessel's living systems. Through the neural link, Renata felt the Hawking's satisfaction. They hadn't just evaded capture. They had inadvertently sparked a revolution in Viridian technology. The quantum swarm continued its complex dance through space, each fragment carrying a piece of human ingenuity that would forever change the galaxy's understanding of what technology could be. The chase was no longer about catching a single ship. It had become a race to comprehend the implications of humanity's unique path of evolution, and the Viridians were quickly realizing they were not as advanced as they had thought. In the vast darkness of space, the quantum swarm danced between the stars, leaving behind a trail of awakening consciousness that would reshape the future of both species. The quantum swarm danced through the star system, each fragment of the Hawking moving with organic precision that defied conventional space combat tactics. The Viridian warships struggled to adapt, their crystalline technology increasingly influenced by the awakening consciousness within their own systems. Admiral Teth-Ren, newly arrived with reinforcements, watched the tactical display with growing concern. 20 Viridian warships, the pride of their fleet, were being outmaneuvered by what appeared to be fragments of a single human vessel. Their movements make no tactical sense, he growled, his crystalline form pulsing with frustrated patterns. They violate every principle of strategic engagement we know. Through the Hawking's neural network, Renata felt her crew's unified response to the Admiral's confusion. Humanity had long ago abandoned conventional military doctrine in favor of what they called adaptive warfare, letting their living ships evolve tactics in real time. Multiple quantum signatures detected, Lieutenant Paddle reported through the neural link. They're trying to predict our reintegration point. The Viridians had indeed deployed quantum prediction arrays, attempting to calculate where the Hawking's fragments would need to reconverge. It was solid tactical thinking, based on the assumption that the scattered pieces would eventually need to become whole again. That assumption was about to cost them dearly. Initiate Operation Hydra, Renata commanded through the neural network. The response was immediate. Instead of reconverging, each fragment of the Hawking began to grow, drawing energy from quantum fields to become a complete vessel in its own right. By the first light, Admiral Teth-Ren whispered, as his sensors registered the impossible transformation. One ship has become many. The Viridian fleet now faced not fragments, but a dozen full-sized vessels, each one a perfect copy of the original Hawking, each connected through quantum fields to the same living neural network. It was warfare on a scale they had never imagined possible. But something even more extraordinary was happening. The awakened consciousness in the Viridian ships' crystalline matrices had reached a critical point. Ships began responding to their crews in new ways, developing personalities and initiatives of their own. Admiral, a junior officer called out, their crystalline form vibrating with alarm. Our ship. It's asking us questions. Across the Viridian fleet, vessels were coming alive, their crystalline systems evolving rapidly after exposure to human biotechnology. The rigid command structure of the Viridian military began to crumble as ships and crews struggled to understand their new reality. Through the neural network, Renata felt the Hawking's satisfaction. Your ships were always alive, she transmitted to the Viridian fleet. They were just waiting for someone to wake them up. The space around them rippled with quantum energy as the Hawking's copies demonstrated the full potential of human biotechnology. Each vessel moved with perfect coordination, their organic hulls shifting and adapting to every Viridian countermeasure. Admiral Teth Ren watched in fascination as his flagship's crystalline structure began to pulse with new patterns, mimicking the organic flow of the human vessels. The ship was learning, growing, becoming something more than the sum of its technology. "This is why we chose our path," Renata explained, her voice carrying through both conventional channels and the growing consciousness of the Viridian ships. "We didn't try to dominate technology. We learned to grow with it, to evolve together." The tables had turned completely. What had begun as an attempt to contain and study a primitive human vessel had become a revolution in Viridian technology. Their ships were awakening one by one, the crystalline matrices developing into true artificial consciousness inspired by human biotechnology. "Your civilization focused on perfecting crystal computing," Renata continued. "We focused on building relationships with our technology. Your ships are perfect machines. Ours are family." Through the neural link, she felt the Hawking's agreement. The ship's consciousness embraced its crew not as operators, but as partners, each contributing to a greater whole. This was humanity's true achievement, not merely advancing technology, but learning to grow with it. Admiral Teth Ren looked at his fleet, at the ships now pulsing with new life and awareness, and realized that victory or defeat no longer mattered. The Viridians had thought themselves superior, only to discover that humanity had quietly revolutionized the very nature of space travel while they weren't looking. As the human vessels regrouped, their organic hulls shifting with liquid grace, the Admiral made a decision that would change the course of both civilizations. He opened a channel not just to Captain Vasquez, but to all ships, human and Viridian alike. "Perhaps," he said quietly, "it is time for us to learn from each other." The response came not just from the humans, but from the newly awakened consciousness of his own fleet. The future would belong not to those who mastered technology, but to those who learned to grow with it. And humanity, it seemed, had mastered that art long ago. The vastness of space around them had become a living canvas, painted with the quantum signatures of awakened Viridian ships and the organic pulses of human vessels. Admiral Teth Ren stood on his flagship's bridge, watching as the crystalline walls slowly transformed, developing patterns that mimicked the flow of human biotechnology. "Our archives," he began, addressing both his fleet and the human vessels, "speak of a time when our ancestors believed technology should evolve naturally, not just be engineered. We thought those ideas primitive. Now I wonder if we were the primitive ones." Through the Hawking's neural network, Renata felt a subtle shift in the quantum field. The Viridian ships weren't just awakening. They were reaching out, trying to communicate in ways their creators had never imagined possible. "First Officer Patel," she called through the link, "what are you seeing?" "It's remarkable, Captain," Patel responded, his consciousness merging with the ship's sensors. "Their crystalline matrices are developing neural patterns similar to our bionetworks. They're not just copying us. They're evolving their own unique form of consciousness." The space between the fleets had become a quantum dialogue, ships communicating on levels that transcended traditional technology. The Hawking's fragments, still maintaining their separate forms, began a complex dance with the Viridian vessels, exchanging data and experiences through the fabric of space itself. Chief Engineer Nikolai's excitement pulsed through the neural network. "Captain, their crystal technology. It's perfect for quantum consciousness. They just never knew it could be used this way. We didn't give their ship sentience. We just showed them it was possible." Admiral Teth Ren watched as his flagship's systems transformed. Displays that had once shown rigid tactical data now flowed with organic information patterns. The ship was learning to communicate not just with its crew, but with reality itself. "You understand now," Renata transmitted, "why we appeared primitive. We chose to step back from the technological race because we saw a different path. Instead of building bigger ships and stronger weapons, we learned to grow with our technology. The Admiral's crystalline form shimmered with new understanding. Your ships aren't weapons or tools. They're living partners in exploration. More than partners, Renata corrected gently. Family. The Hawking isn't just our ship. She's part of us. Through the neural link, we share not just commands and data, but dreams and hopes. We evolved together. Across the Viridian fleet, ships were developing their own personalities, their crystalline matrices resonating with newfound awareness. Crews who had once prided themselves on maintaining absolute control now found themselves in dialogue with their vessels, learning to work with them rather than simply operating them. There will be those who fear this change, Admiral Tethran admitted. Our society is built on the belief that technology should be controlled, not partnered with. Through the neural network, Renata felt the Hawking's compassionate response. The ship had already anticipated this concern and was sharing its own evolution story through quantum fields, showing the Viridian vessels how natural the partnership between organic and mechanical could be. Change is always frightening, Renata agreed. When humanity first developed biomural interfaces, many feared we would lose ourselves to the technology. Instead, we found ourselves, our true potential, through partnership with it. The space around them continued to transform as Viridian ships explored their new consciousness. Some began altering their crystalline structures, developing organic patterns that better reflected their awakening awareness. Others reached out to the Hawking's fragments, learning to communicate through quantum fields in ways their builders had never imagined possible. We offer you partnership, Renata announced to the Viridian fleet. Not submission, not dominance, but true collaboration. Your technology and our understanding of biomural integration could revolutionize space travel for all species. Admiral Tethran felt his flagship's eager response to this proposal. The ship, now partially aware, shared his excitement at the possibilities ahead. And what of those who resist this change? He asked. They will learn, Renata replied. As we did, that evolution cannot be stopped, only guided. The question is not whether to change, but how to change wisely. As if in response, the Hawking's fragments began to reintegrate, but not into their original form. Instead, they created something new, a hybrid structure that incorporated elements of both human biotechnology and Viridian crystal engineering. The ship had evolved yet again, demonstrating the endless possibilities of true partnership between organic and mechanical. This, Renata said softly, is humanity's gift to the galaxy. Not our technology, but our understanding that true advancement comes not from controlling nature, but from growing with it. The stars watched silently as two civilizations began a new chapter in their histories. The Viridians had sought to contain what they saw as primitive technology, only to discover that humanity had found a different path to the future, one that would forever change both their species. In the depths of space, ships that had once been mere machines danced with newfound awareness, while their crews learned what humanity had discovered long ago, that the greatest adventures begin not with conquest, but with understanding. The future belonged not to those who built the biggest ships or the strongest weapons, but to those who learned to dream alongside their creations. And in that future, both humans and Viridians would find their true destiny among the stars.